welcome back to Interstorms Games Presents. For those of you just joining us, we've been counting down my top 100 games of all time as a slight pseudo-challenge from the Dice Tower. Tom Valsel put it out. I accepted because I didn't really have any clue what I was really getting into. And there's the word really again, as we learned last time, is my crutch word of choice. I'll try to refrain from using it as much as possible this time. But for right now, let's move on ahead with games number 80 through 71.
80 players.
Alright, let's kick it off with my number 80 game, which is Quarriors. This is actually one of the expansions for Quarriors, Quest for the Gladiator. But Quarriors, if you're familiar with deck building games, takes that same concept and uses dice. So it's a dice building game. And in Quarriors, your dice are going to be representing different creatures. This one is the mighty heavenly Seraph.
That's the bed for me.
Yes, Piper. You come over to this is my co-host Piper. This is my daughter, my 3.5-year-old daughter. Then I have Strong Voodoo Dolls, another creature. So you're purchasing these creatures with your cash, which is I keep wanting to call it Quidditch. I know it's Quidditch. It's Quiddity, not Quidditch. Quidditch is Harry Potter. Quiddity is the currency. But you use that to buy the creatures. You can also buy spells. This one is the Harmony Charm. And depending on, you roll those dice, and depending on how the dice come up, you can use them to attack your opponents. And as you attack your opponents, you're hoping to eliminate their monsters that they have in their ready queue. The goal is to keep your monsters alive in your ready queue until your turn comes back around again, at which point you can score them. And then the points depend on the first, how many people playing. For 2 players, it goes all the way up to 20. If you're only playing 4, well, it goes up to 12. Which I think kind of 12 makes for a really, really quick game. We usually play to 15 if we have 4 people playing. Or if we're just all having a blast, we'll go ahead and play to 20. A lot of fun. One of those games I didn't really care for at first, but kind of grew on me. And especially with the expansions that have come out, they've made some corrections. The player sheets have actually put an expansion they've actually attached to the player sheet that you can print out that was not included in the original. Which actually that kept this game lower on my list, but they've now corrected that with the expansions. The boxes are big enough to hold all the dice. They have these nice little trays that hold all the dice in. Nice and neat. Neatly arranged. And all that combined, plus the great experience and fun of just rolling dice over and over again and hoping for the right combinations to help keep your dice in the ready area to score, makes Quarriors my number 80. My number 79 game is not Thunderstone. It is actually the granddaddy of all trading card games, Magic: The Gathering. I don't have any kind of fancy carrying case. I've just gotten into Magic recently, and when I say into, I use that word very, very lightly. I've only picked up some of the the core sets that are pre-combined sets. And I've only gotten some of the stuff out of Ravnica. I know Gate Crash just came out, I think, like a week ago as of the filming of this. But for those of you who have not played Magic, the idea is that you have a Planeswalker, or you are a Planeswalker representing one, who is representing, at least as far as Ravnica goes, a faction, and that faction focuses on 2 types of mana. Be it, they call it green, which I guess is earth. They have white, which is the sun, blue, water, red, fire, and black, death. And so each faction will have I'm trying to see if I can find a mana card. We'll have just a card that provides mana. Here's the white sun mana. And the cards themselves will require, in this case, 1 mana and 4 of some other element. And so you have those elements, they call them I don't even remember what they call them now, but they're mana, they're areas, they're planes, they're realms. They sit in front of you. You tap them and to summon, and tap is just turning it sideways to show that it's been used. And by doing that, you summon spells, you summon monsters to fight on your behalf. And the whole point is trying to reduce your opponent down from 20 life points down to 0. Very, very simple mechanics, and the core mechanics are used in almost every trading card game to date. I really, really like Magic, and the only reason it falls so low on my list is that it's a collectible card game, trading card game. And I do not like trading card games. I do not like buying a pack of cards and getting the same card every single time. I tried getting into the Star Wars trading card game many years ago, and after buying several packs and having one blaster and 4 Aunt Barus and no other heroes, I decided to get out of the trading card genre after that. The only reason I'm playing Magic is because it does have the preset decks. I'm not as into it there, and the people that love Magic, and they're super into it. Right, Piper? Are they super into it? Oh, we're a chicken now. Last week we were a mouse, this week we're a chicken. We might be a dog later on, so stay tuned for that. The people, and I have great respect for the people that are into Magic. They know what they're talking about. They know their stuff. They're willing to go in there and spend the money for the good cards. Not a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I'm a very casual Magic player. I enjoy it. I enjoy what I have. I am looking forward to getting some of the pre-done Gate Crash decks. But for now, my Ravnica keeps me happy and keeps Magic at number 79 on my list.
Manager.
My number 78 game is Blood Bowl Team Manager. Blood Bowl Team Manager, if you remember my description of Smash Up back from our first episode, is again essentially at its core just war. But it's war done really, and there's really again. It's war done with a football mechanic and a tough box to open. But you're going to take on the role as a team manager. You're going to own a team of elves, of Skaven, of chaos, of orcs. Excuse me. And you're going to compete over different games going on in a football season. You'll lay out a certain number of games depending on the number of players, and you'll also lay out a championship game of some kind. Squeaky squeaking. Okay, see, now we're a mouse again. I thought we'd be a dog. We're actually gone back to being a mouse. But what I like better about the war simulation here in Blood Bowl Team Manager is that only 2 teams can compete in a game. So once 2 people commit to that game, no one else can commit except for the championship game. All 4 players or 2 players or 3 players, however many, they can all compete in the championship game. But I feel there's a lot more back and forth. The fact that the ball can change hands multiple times, you can tackle opponents. The deciding where to commit and how to commit in Blood Bowl Team Manager versus Smash Up, to me, is a lot more important. It comes into play a lot more often. And just the awards you get, because you're guaranteed awards in each game, and then depending on who wins the game gets additional awards. So it kind of gives you some incentive up front that something good's going to happen to you. And then so being able to block out an opponent, if you're playing a 4-player game, for being able to get those rewards as well, really adds a nice layer on top of it. I think it's well done. I would like to see a Lizard Man team. I'm a big Lizard Man fan from the Warhammer Fantasy universe. They did get Skaven though, so big props for that. My number 78, Blood Bowl Team Manager.
7-0.
My number 77 game is Suro. Suro is, and actually this is the second edition. It's the second variation. It's called Suro of the Seas. In the original Suro, which can be played out of this edition, you are a Chinese dragon. In this game, you're Chinese ships. And you're laying down tiles on the board, and the tiles all have paths on them, indicating ways to come on and ways to come off the board. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take your ship, and you're going to lay a tile down in front of your ship, and your ship is going to have to follow that path. And I'll try and get a ship here that maybe will stand out against the blue. And so if I bring my ship here, it's going to have to follow the flow and head that way. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to maneuver your ship to stay on the board as long as possible, because if your ship goes off the board or hits another ship, you're out of the game. So basically, essentially a last man standing kind of game. What makes Suro of the Seas even more interesting is that I've misplaced the interesting tiles. Is they've added sea monsters into them. And the sea monsters have a very fancy Chinese name that I'm not even going to try and pronounce right now. But you place these sea monsters on the board, and they're going to move around randomly based on dice rolls. which adds another layer of strategy to the game. So in this one, you can play the base game without the sea monsters. So if you haven't played Suro before, I recommend doing that first to get a feel for the mechanics. And then for our enjoyable challenge, add the sea monsters in. That makes for a nice change of pace. And because the movement is random, it can't throw a monkey into your wrench as far as the plan you think you played out. A really great family game, a really great time filler. I guess filler games, what a lot of people refer to them as. Actually holds up to 8 players. I have not played it with 8 players. I can imagine I played it with 4. I can only imagine what 8 would be like. But my number 77, Suro.
6 Lost Cities.
My number 77 game is Lost Cities. Lost Cities is a 2-player game by Reiner Knizia, where you are taking on the role of a leader of an expedition, and you and your opponent are trying to amass points based on cards of certain colors. The cards are numbered 2 to 10, and there's only one of each in the entire throughout the game. Each time you start an expedition, you're automatically going to lose 20 points. And so on that expedition, you're trying to accumulate cards of a score of at least 20 so you can balance out, or preferably more. The other option you can do is you have what we call them the handshake cards. They're basically investor agreements, where if you play one of these first, before you play any number cards, you can possibly double, triple, or if you're lucky enough to get 3 of these, you can quadruple your score. The catch with that is that those multiplier bonuses come after your score is calculated. So if I've only gotten 15 points on my expedition, I lose 20 first, I've made 15, so I'm actually still at a -5. And then if that gets doubled, tripled, or quadrupled, I could be at -20 points for that expedition. I believe the actual point range it says is between -80 and 156. My wife and I just started playing this recently. I've played it with friends up at work before, but she's just learned to play this recently. She really enjoys it. I enjoy playing it with her. She's getting better every day. It's only a matter of time before she beats me. Actually, she did beat me in a quote-unquote practice rehash memory game the other night. But if you're looking for a good family game or one to play with your wife, I highly recommend Lost Cities. My number 76.
95 Jazz Gold. Oh.
My number 75 game is Dragon's Gold. This is the old blue box version. Dragon's Gold has been republished recently in a nice, fancier, bigger box. But Dragon's Gold is a game of the ultimate negotiation because it's a time negotiation. In the game, you and your fellow players are defeating dragons. And the dragons will be defeated. There's no question of that. The question comes up is how is your loot going to be divided? When the dragon first comes on the board, you know some of what's going to be on there. I say some of what because the loot is different colors, and each of the different colors are a different points value. And so as the divvying up of the treasure comes, you know some of what's going to be on there, and then after the dragon's dead, you put some more treasure out, and then it's divided up. You have 1 minute to divide the treasure among everybody who took part. To add even more fun to that is perhaps you have a thief who can steal treasure from other players. Or a wizard and a thief, where the wizard allows the thief to see what treasure is being stolen. A lot of fun, a lot of enjoyment as negotiations take place, because am I going to negotiate for what I want? Am I going to negotiate to keep another player from getting what he or she wants? All within the time limit. Sometimes and actually I don't think it's actually maybe 30 seconds. It may not be a full minute. But all that, trying to get all that done, a lot of cases it's going to be very simple to make the division, especially early on in the game. But as the game gets on, some of those negotiations at the end can get pretty intense. And I've actually seen a couple where nothing ever got split because one player decided that he didn't want anybody to get anything they wanted, and he was willing to give up what he wanted. So he just never would agree to the overall deal. A great little game. Again, very short, very fun. My number 75. 75, Dragon's Gold.
The first Pirate Zone.
And my we're up to number 74 now. Now that Piper has rejoined me. And my number 74 is Carcassonne. Carcassonne is a classic game of tile laying. I think Carcassonne's been around for over 10 years now. But in Carcassonne, all you're going to do is lay a tile down each turn. Of course, I pick one that tile's going to have a road or a city on it. Or you might just have a cloister. And you're going to, as you lay down tiles, you're going to have to connect the roads. And you're going to have to connect the cities. And what you want to do is you want to either complete a city or complete a road, and that means your road ends on both sides with one of your meeples on it, with your colored meeple on it. When you play a tile, if that road or build a city that the tile is attached to, if that road doesn't have any other color meeple on it, you can claim that road by placing your meeple on it. You can claim a city. Or you can also claim the farmland by laying your meeple in the grassy area on the side, which means that if any cities that complete that your farmer is servicing, you'll get bonus points for each of those. The cloister, you're trying to place tiles all the way around and surround your cloister, and once you do that, you get 9 points for that. And the winner at the end of the game, once all the tiles are used, the game is over. The winner with the most points at the end of the game is the winner. Very, very simple, very addictive. I know there's a plethora of expansions out for this game. I personally don't have any of them, but I have played several of them. The Inns and Traders, I think, is a good one. The Builders is an enjoyable expansion. I've heard to stay away from the Catapult. I've heard to stay away from the Dragon. But if nothing else, you've got to play the base game of Carcassonne, my number 74. Right, Piper?
Squeak.
Squeak. My number 73 game is not one that I own, but it's one I've played many times, and that's War of the Ring. War of the Ring is the ultimate Lord of the Rings experience, in my opinion. In War of the Ring, and I played the Fantasy Flight version, the original Fantasy Flight version. I've not played the newer edition that just came out recently, but I imagine the basic game, from what I understand, is still the same. You gonna leave us? Okay, all right. Well, feel free to come back. In War of the Ring, you're going to play either the light side or the dark side, for lack of a better phrase, the heroes of the Fellowship or the forces of Sauron. And the game plays very, very, very much like the actual books and movie, the films as well. As for the forces of Sauron, you're trying to conquer and take over as many human civilizations as possible to wipe out the world of man. If you're playing the Fellowship side, you're trying to, one, defend the world of man from the evil forces of Sauron, but you're also trying to get the ring to Mount Doom. And the winner is the first one to complete their task, either destroy the ring or defeat, I think, 10 lands of man. I think every time I played this game, it has come down to the wire, where if one person didn't win, the next person would have on their next turn. Also, every time I played this, the heroes of the Fellowship have won. So, yay for that. But it's come through a lot of sacrifice. Usually, I found that I end up having to send most of the Fellowship to Mount Doom, and that by the time the ring gets there, only one person's left to toss it in. But again, very, very enjoyable, very, very tense. A lot of fun. I wish I had it, but unfortunately, its price is a little out of my range at the moment. Perhaps someday. But if you ever get a chance, definitely play War of the Ring, my number 73.
There's 2 stories.
Squeak, squeak, squeaker, squeakin'. Right, Piper? Yes. All right, my number 72 game is the co-op game I love to hate, Ghost Stories. If you've never played cooperative games, don't start with Ghost Stories. Start with Pandemic, start with Forbidden Island, something a little bit lighter fare. If you have played cooperative games and you're a big fan of them, and you love a challenge, then go out and get Ghost Stories. Ghost Stories will kick you all over the place. To quote someone on another review I saw recently, you open the box and Ghost Stories actually starts beating you up before you even set the board up. Ghost Stories comes in several playable levels, including an introductory, an easy, a medium, a hard. I don't know what they consider hard, because the intermediate level, I think I've won once out of the many times I've played this. In Ghost Stories, you are going to be a ghost hunter in the flavor of the old Japanese B movies, where you're a ghost hunter. And so you're going around hunting ghosts. And let's go ahead and take these out so you get a clearer picture. So there's the ghost hunter. Typical Japanese. And they all look the same, there's different colors. And the ghost, again, they all look the same and they're all black. The ghosts are actually going to be represented by cards that you draw. And those cards are going to be placed on a board in front of you when you draw them. And depending on the card will also tell you what is required to defeat it. I should tell you, it's not placed on the board in front of you, it's placed on the board depending on the color drawn. So a blue card would go on the blue player board, green card on the green player board. What really makes Ghost Stories additionally interesting is that the way the board is laid. The board is actually laid up of 9 tiles that are laid in the grid, and their placement is completely random, so you can change it up each time. There's no set position for each of these village tokens. But the ghosts are going to advance across the village one at a time, and when the ghost is on the village tile, that ability becomes non-existent. You can't use that village's ability anymore. Fortunately, each ghost hunter does come with his own ability. Excuse me?
I'll play this too.
You want to play those? Yeah, there you go. Go for it. Go fight some ghosts. Go Ghostbusters. Who are you gonna call? That's who I thought you'd call. Any point, each turn you're drawing a ghost card. So each turn, if you can't defeat a ghost, the ghost can be advancing back and forth across the 9-tile board. Once again, this game is hard because even as you're fighting the ghosts, you're going to get down to the big main ghost that you have to defeat to actually finish the game. And if you think keeping the regular ghosts at bay is difficult, it really becomes hard when you've got some of these ghosts that require all these different... Excuse me? Oh, I thought you were asking a question. Anyway, these other ghosts require all these different elements to be able to beat them. Very challenging, very hard, truly co-op. You have to work together. And I mean work together as in, help, I'm almost gone. I need someone to come over here and save me now. Your ghost hunters have powers. They also have, depending on how you want to play it, they can have their option of powers. So depending on both sides of the board are different, and so both provide a different set of powers. So the green ghost hunter has 2 different powers he can use. He's only use one during the game, whichever side of the board you're using, that's his power for that game. But you play again, you can flip your board over, and now he's got a different power. Same for the red, the blue, and the yellow. The village tokens, again, there's expansions out for this, which include other, excuse me? Oh, you need the green one? I'm sorry, there you go. Hard to fight ghosts without the green ghost hunter. Again, very challenging, very exciting. This is definitely a nail-biter of a game, and when you win, you're going to feel such a sense of accomplishment. That is why I recommend my number 72, Ghost Stories.
Ghost Stories.
Ghost Stories.
Civilization.
Which brings us to my number 71 game, which is another game that I don't own. That's Sid Meier's Civilization, based on the old computer game. This is probably one of the best Civilization games out there at this time. There's several cultures you can choose from. You have the Egyptians, there's the Germans, there's the Americans, the Chinese. And that's just in the core game. There's expansion now that adds even more. Yes? Oh, Piper says, squeak, 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 squeak. Alright. And so you're taking your culture and you're trying to expand your civilization, hence the name. You start with one city, you're trying to go out, scout around, build more civilizations, upgrade what you have. And what makes Sid Meier's Civilization really enjoyable is the multiple victory tracks they have to win. You can do a technological victory, so you can try and accumulate a technology pyramid of stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 technologies. You can try and do a cultural win on the cultural track. You do that by accumulating cultural tokens through various means, either through buildings you've built or through other options that you have. And then each time you can turn those in to advance on the cultural track. You can get famous people to help you meet your goals. You can build wonders of the world. You can do an economic victory where you try and gain coins. Coins can be gained, again, through different means, through the cultural means. You can find them on the board. You can get them through technologies or accomplishing different tasks. You can also do a military win. But all of it usually comes down to the last turn. A lot of options, a lot of things you can do, a lot of things you can buy and upgrade. Great experience overall. I highly recommend it. My number 71, Sid Meier's Civilization. Well, thank you very much. All right, that brings us to the end of another video. That was my numbers 80 through 71. Go Ghostbusters. Just a couple things before I wrap up. I did not mention last time, in case you've noticed, I'm lit better than my first episode. Yes, ma'am?
Thanks for sharing these with you.
Oh, you're welcome, yes. You may share those anything, because we all know sharing is caring. As I was saying, in case I look a little bit better lit or the video quality looks a bit better, I actually have a cinematographer now after my first episode. A friend of mine reached out to me, Michael Head. He's behind the camera. That's his thumb right there. He offered to help out, so he's doing the behind the camera work while I do the in front of the camera work, and Piper provides inspirational support and squeakiness. Thank you. I'd also just like to remind everybody, if you haven't had a chance yet, to go check us out on Facebook at Inner Storm Games. Just like our page. I really appreciate it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Inner Storm Games, at Inner Storm Games. I don't tweet that much except when I've got a new video out. I'm trying to get a little bit better at that. Sometimes I feel like the ramblings in my head aren't that important. I'm trying to keep it mainly for business purposes. Oh, wow, you did. You made a line. That's great. That's one of every color, isn't it? Yeah. But as this takes off, we're getting more and more hits. We've definitely got more hits than I ever expected or thought I would get. Actually, I only thought I'd ever get 2 hits. One for me and one for my wife watching it. I'm sure most of those views are contributed to Piper. Yes, exactly. But for now, though, we'll just go ahead and wrap things up with that squeak. And hopefully we'll get another one of these out. We're trying to film about once a week. So please come back and join us for numbers 70 through 61. We're getting close to the halfway point. Once we get past that, I'll probably do some I don't know if I'll do reviews or tons of reviews out there. I kind of like doing the game demo, maybe get Michael out from behind the camera and we'll do some game demos, play some games back and forth, walk through the rules of some of these games, and show them to you. And then you can decide whether it's something that a game you'd like or don't like, or you can correct us on how they're playing. Do what? Oh, now they're going with each other, blue and yellow. Wow, that's great.
And red.
And green and red. And we'll somehow try and incorporate Piper in those demos too. I can count on that.
And we are looking at them.
They are looking at them. That's great. Yeah. But for now, I'll go ahead and sign off saying thanks again for tuning in to Inner Storm Games Presents. Thank you very much.
This is